The question is this decision of having an abortion is a very difficult decision. And I understand the family, and I understand.
Franklin Graham, the son of renowned evangelist Billy Graham, has been one of the most influential voices in the evangelical Christian world for over 3 decades. His life, deeply intertwined with a powerful legacy, has seen its share of triumphs, challenges, and controversies. As the leader of Samaritan's Purse and the Billy Graham Evangelistic Association, BGEA, Franklin has shaped the direction of both organizations, expanding their missions and broadening their global reach. Yet in recent years, whispers of uncertainty surrounding his health, outspoken views, and the future of his ministry have raised questions about the future of Franklin Graham's leadership and the legacy he is building. A legacy to uphold. Growing up in the shadow of Billy Graham. Born on July 14, 1952, in Asheville, North Carolina, William Franklin Graham Jr. was destined to be part of the Christian dynasty established by his father, Billy Graham. His father's fame and influence were nearly unparalleled, with a ministry that reached millions through worldwide crusades, radio broadcasts, and relationships with political leaders. Billy Graham was known as the pastor to presidents, an intimate advisor to several U.S. presidents, and a tireless preacher of the gospel to global audiences. For Franklin, growing up in such an extraordinary household came with immense pressure. From an early age, he was often seen as the heir to his father's ministry, a legacy that seemed to demand perfection. This was no easy task. Franklin himself has candidly discussed the struggles he faced in his youth, describing a period of rebellion against both his father's faith and the expectations placed on him as a member of the Graham family. Unlike his father, who was seen as a model of moral integrity and spiritual fortitude, Franklin grappled with a sense of identity and the weight of his father's towering influence. In his younger years, Franklin's life was far from what one might expect from the son of one of the world's most famous evangelists. He admitted to engaging in behaviors such as smoking, drinking, and even getting expelled from college. For a time, it seemed as though Franklin would distance himself entirely from the Christian ministry that had defined his father's legacy. However, this period of rebellion was not to last forever. A pivotal moment in Franklin's life came in 1974, when at the age of 22, he experienced a profound spiritual awakening during a trip to the Middle East. While traveling through the region, Franklin encountered the deep spiritual poverty and suffering of many individuals, and he felt a deep calling to dedicate his life to Christ. This epiphany marked a turning point, and Franklin committed himself to follow in his father's footsteps. He soon entered the ministry, and his life took a dramatic turn as he embraced his role as an evangelist, with a renewed sense of purpose and passion for spreading the gospel. The rise of Franklin Graham, leading Samaritan's Purse and the Billy Graham Evangelistic Association. By the late 1970s, Franklin Graham had fully embraced his role in Christian ministry. In 1979, he became involved with Samaritan's Purse, a Christian humanitarian organization that had been founded by Dr. Bob Pierce in 1970. The organization's mission was to provide aid to the impoverished and suffering around the world, with a focus on providing emergency relief, medical care, and long-term development projects. Under Franklin's leadership, Samaritan's Purse grew exponentially and became one of the largest and most effective humanitarian organizations in the world. Perhaps the most well-known project of Samaritan's Purse is the annual Operation Christmas Child Initiative, which delivers millions of gift-filled shoeboxes to children in impoverished regions across the globe. This campaign has brought immense joy to countless children, but it is just one facet of the organization's much broader mission. Samaritan's Purse is involved in disaster relief, medical missions, and long-term development projects in some of the most remote and war-torn areas of the world. Whether responding to natural disasters like hurricanes and earthquakes, providing medical care in refugee camps, or addressing the ongoing crisis in war-torn nations, Samaritan's Purse has become a symbol of Christian compassion and action. In addition to his work with Samaritan's Purse, Franklin Graham also became deeply involved in the leadership of the Billy Graham Evangelistic Association, BGEA, an organization founded by his father in 1950. The BGEA had long been known for its large-scale evangelistic crusades, which brought the message of Christ to millions. However, under Franklin's leadership, the BGEA expanded its outreach through new media platforms, including television broadcasts and the internet, reaching an even broader global audience. Through his leadership of both Samaritan's Purse and the BGEA, Franklin Graham became a prominent and influential figure in the Christian world. His ministry reached millions across the globe, with messages of hope, salvation, and the love of Christ being spread through both humanitarian efforts and traditional evangelism. Franklin Graham's political involvement. A lightning rod for controversy. One of the most defining aspects of Franklin Graham's public life has been his willingness to speak out on political issues. This has often put him at odds with many of his peers in the evangelical community, particularly given the political neutrality that his father, Billy Graham, maintained throughout his ministry. While Billy Graham was known for keeping his political views private, Franklin Graham has consistently been outspoken about his political convictions, often aligning himself with conservative causes and candidates. Perhaps the most controversial aspect of Franklin Graham's political involvement has been his strong support for former President Donald Trump. During both the 2016 and 2020 U.S. presidential elections, Franklin emerged as one of Trump's most vocal evangelical supporters. He defended Trump against critics who pointed to the candidate's past moral failings, his unorthodox political style, and his controversial statements. Franklin went so far as to suggest that Trump was chosen by God to lead the country, a statement that resonated with many conservative evangelicals, but alienated others within the broader Christian community. This outspoken support for Trump generated intense debate within evangelical circles. While some saw Franklin's endorsement as an affirmation of Christian conservative values, others questioned whether Trump's behavior and policies were consistent with the teachings of Christ. For many, Franklin's vocal support for Trump raised questions about the intersection of faith and politics, and whether an evangelical leader should be so closely associated with a polarizing political figure. In addition to his political support for Trump, Franklin Graham has made headlines for his strong opposition to same-sex marriage and LGBTQ+ rights. He has consistently spoken out against what he sees as the moral decay of American society, warning that the legalization of same-sex marriage and the broader LGBTQ+ movement is a sign of God's impending judgment on the nation. These views have made him a target for LGBTQ+ advocates, who accuse him of promoting hate and intolerance. For Franklin, however, his stance on these issues is not about politics. It is about defending the truth of the Bible. He believes that Christians have a responsibility to stand up for biblical values, even when it is unpopular. Despite the criticism, Franklin Graham has continued to use his platform to speak boldly about the need for Christians to defend their faith, even in the face of societal pressure. His commitment to standing firm on biblical truths, regardless of the cost, has solidified his standing as a prominent leader in the evangelical world. Health struggles, Franklin Graham's heart surgery and recovery. In November 2021, Franklin Graham made headlines for a very different reason: his health. After experiencing symptoms of heart disease, Graham underwent a specialized heart surgery known as a pericardiectomy at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota. This procedure involved removing a portion of the pericardium, the protective sac surrounding the heart, in order to relieve pressure and improve heart function. The news of Franklin's surgery sparked concern among his followers, many of whom were unsure of the severity of his condition. In a statement released after the surgery, Franklin expressed gratitude for the prayers and support he had received and thanked the medical professionals who had cared for him. His medical team reported that the surgery had been successful and that Franklin was expected to make a full recovery. For Franklin, the health scare was a reminder of the fragility of life and the importance of trusting in God's plan. In the months following his recovery, Franklin returned to his ministry work with renewed vigor, continuing to preach and oversee the operations of both Samaritan's Purse and the BGEA. However, his health concerns have prompted questions about the long-term sustainability of his ministry and the future leadership of the organizations he has built. The future of Franklin Graham's ministry, continuing the legacy. As Franklin Graham enters his 70s, the question of succession looms large. Like his father before him, Franklin has built a vast and influential ministry that will need to continue long after he is no longer able to lead it. Although Franklin has not publicly named a successor, it is likely that one of his children will eventually take on a leadership role in the family's ministry. Franklin's son, Will Graham, has already begun to step into the spotlight as an evangelist in his own right. Will has preached at several evangelistic events around the world and has been increasingly involved in the operations of both Samaritan's Purse and the BGEA. While it remains to be seen whether Will take over his father's ministry in the same way that Franklin took over from Billy, it is clear that the Graham family's legacy of evangelism is poised to continue for another generation. However, Franklin Graham's legacy will be more complicated than that of his father. While Billy Graham was widely respected across denominational and political lines, Franklin has been a more polarizing figure. His outspoken political views and rigid theological positions have earned him both loyal followers and fierce critics. As a result, the future of Franklin Graham's ministry may be more divisive than the unified global evangelistic movement that his father built. Controversies surrounding Franklin Graham, from the White House to the pulpit. Over the years, Franklin Graham has faced numerous controversies, some centered on his political involvement and others more personal in nature. One of the most significant controversies occurred in the aftermath of the September 11, 2001 terrorist attacks. In a televised interview, Franklin referred to Islam as an evil religion, which sparked outrage from Muslim groups and interfaith advocates. While Franklin later clarified that he was referring to the actions of radical Islamic extremists, his comments were seen by many as inflammatory and unhelpful in promoting dialogue between religious communities. Franklin Graham's health struggles, political involvement, and controversial statements have made him a figure that divides opinion. Yet one thing remains clear: his influence on global Christianity is undeniable, and his legacy will continue to shape the landscape of evangelicalism for years to come.